Matt. How you doing? So, day 6 of the Idea Explosion Challenge. Why, thank you, Matt. Good morning, Eric. Good to see you here on this fine morning. Although it's probably not morning there. Over here, it's absolutely leathering it down with rain. So, and it's. I hesitate to say cold because I know that there are quite a few people who live in places like Canada, stuff like that. But it is a little chilly this morning. However, I'm not going to continue being English and talking about the weather because I don't like to conform to stereotypes, man. And instead, we're going to get on with this Idea Explosion Challenge. And do you know what happened yesterday? What happened yesterday was I had hello, Joseph. I had a revelation. Oh, and by the way, on that T-shirt point, Matt, before I talk about my revelation, on that T-shirt point, I am actually now, well, when I say I am designing my own T-shirts, I am getting some T-shirts made, some automatic music machine and so on T-shirts. So they will be coming soon. So thank you for the compliments about my T-shirts. Soon I'm going to have some ones which are actually relevant, like specifically relevant to what we're doing. So, first of all, how has your splurging been going? Actually, no. First of all, let me tell you about my revelation. So, yesterday I discovered that the new update in Logic, and this is why I have actually downloaded the full version of Ableton, because I do want to use that as well in my live streams, just to show, for the people who use Ableton. I don't think it really makes that much difference, to be honest, but some people they want to see the thing that they specifically do, so I get that. Whereas I don't really focus on the technical side of things, as you might have noticed. I focus on the tool that uses all tools more than anything else, and the creative process in general. But anyway, I do recognize that people like to see the door or the tool that they use being used. So I've downloaded Ableton. But the reason I haven't done it yet is that this update of Logic just came at the start of this week, and I hadn't realized that they've updated this particular feature that I use all the time anyway, which is the capture record feature. Now, what you will notice if you were here at the start of the live stream was that there was nothing playing in Logic, and I was just playing the keyboard, and I pressed capture, and it captured that recording without anything playing. So the way capture used to work was you had to have it playing in order for you to capture the recording. Now that is not the case. Logic is listening all the time, and basically it doesn't matter what you do. Basically, you play something and you press capture, and I don't know what the rules are for what it remembers and what it forgets, but anyway, presumably pressing play, and I think it's something like 20 seconds or something, and it will capture the recording. Now, on top of that, in response to somebody mentioning the adapt tempo thing here, I tried it with that, and lo and behold, it also figures out, I don't know how accurate it is, but it also figures out the tempo at which you were playing. Now, these two things together, for me, who I would say is a musician who wants to get off the grid while also using the door for what it's good at. Right, so I don't want to go full hardware because the door just brings certain benefits in terms of being able to save stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going full hardware. I think it's great. Anyone who wants to do that, fantastic. And there's nothing that I actually teach that can't be done full hardware. But anyway, so for me, I want to be able to use the door in order to do certain things, and there's a lot of recall stuff and all that kind of thing. But one of the things that used to I say now really frustrate me about the door was the grid. I'm like, I was feeling I was feeling stifled by the grid, shall we say. And while I only started playing with this yesterday, this feature has basically, could well have, if I can figure out how to use it well, has saved me from the grid. I think. Okay. So, because here you can see, listen to the click track. Yeah, I mean, the capturing MIDI was one thing, but capturing without playing, that's huge. I don't know whether Ableton does that. Capturing without it having to be playing, because you don't have to have an intention. You just play and it will capture it. That's a massive difference. You can hear it changing. Yes, so in Ableton you have to have the track armed. Again, there's an intention there. The huge thing for this update, and I'm not saying Logic is better than Ableton, I don't have an opinion about that. What I am saying is I'm just talking about this. The fact that I can literally, because what I often do, and what I found frustrating in terms of the capture, was that I would select a sound and I just wouldn't press play, just because you just don't. Yeah? And then I'd play something and I'd be like, man, that was good. And then I have to press play and try and play it again, and it never would be the thing. I'm very much, for me anyway, a first idea, best idea kind of person. It's like there's something that happens that first time that you cannot recreate. And I've missed it every time. And that has now been sorted by this one update. And as you can see, that's pretty accurate, I think, from what I can hear, in terms of capturing my... That's amazing. It's just amazing, isn't it? Modern wonders. Anyway, I got super excited about this yesterday, and I bored my team with it. Luckily, both of the people I bored with it are musicians, my copywriter and one of the coaches, but I kind of was like gushing about it. So this has totally opened up a whole new world for me. Anyway, coming back to you folks, does anyone have any questions about the anybody have questions about, here we go, I think there's some questions here. So I'm looking down here because I've now got a new way of seeing things. So I've got less, luckily now got less, hang on, show this. I've now got my iPad here, which is, I'm using Duet as a second monitor. Okay, so I'm now reading the questions from here, which is good. So okay, Yaniv is saying, took me 15 minutes to splurge an idea today with the preset splurge. And Joseph is saying, how many splurges are we aiming to do a day in the idea 11-day challenge? Well, one thing, Joseph, is that we did a Q&A yesterday where that precise question was answered, and also one on Sunday. And I think the link is in the description. Where are you on? You're on YouTube, so the link is in the description. So take a look at that. There's a lot of your questions will be answered, but I will answer it here as well. So 1 is the minimum, but the more you do, the better. So there isn't a, it depends on your time. I mean, when I'm really, really going for it, I aim for 10 a day. So even more sometimes. The highest number I did was 100 in 9 days, however much that comes to. 11 a day. Okay. So more is better in terms of the splurge challenge, but maybe if you're doing the splurge for the first time, don't attempt to do 11 in one day because that takes a bit of practice. Okay. How do, Rob? Hello, Douglas. Joseph, hi everyone. Glad to be here with you all. And Mike hasn't updated his logic to 10.5 like I haven't. I have. That's what I've just been talking about. This is definitely. It just auto updated, so I didn't have a choice. I didn't realize I had auto updates on. Anyway. Okay. So something that has is Matt. So something that happened to me as I did the preset splurge, my editor just kept taking over. Do you have any tips to create the right setting to help avoid that, other than just practicing? So Matt, when you say your editor just took over, that sounds like you're releasing responsibility here. You're like, it's just. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. Just took over. And that I think is a you're not describing what happened accurately. I think that's fair to say, Matt. I think we know each other well enough for me to be able to say that. I mean, I don't know you very well, but but I think basically what I'm saying is, I think you're making an excuse there for what actually happened. Yeah, and I know that's a bit harsh, but I'm not meaning to be harsh at all. I just getting you to think about what actually happened. What happened is some thoughts came into your head, your editor started talking to you, and you paid attention to those thoughts, first of all, and then you got on the train of those thoughts, and then you acted upon those thoughts. You did that. Your editor didn't come and take over. You, i.e. the person who notices the editor and the creator and what you're doing, went with that. Yeah. Which is a different thing, right? So the question you've probably heard me ask a few times of a few people is, how many thoughts and feelings every single day do you not act upon? And the answer is, to that question, if you're anything like me, probably anything like almost anyone, the majority of them. Okay. So you're already an expert at not acting upon them. So really what you need to do is notice those thoughts and not act upon them. So the question really I have for you, Matt, is, was it that you didn't notice the thoughts, that they were thoughts? Or was it that you did notice that they were thoughts and you just decided to act upon them? Which one was it? Because actually what you do about that, the kind of solution to that will depend on which of those it was. So did you not notice that they were thoughts? In other words, you kind of became the thoughts, yeah? Or you did notice the thoughts and you just acted upon them. Let me know that in the chat, and then I'll answer you. Okay. Hello, Simon. Joseph, I do know how deep Ableton Live is. I'm not. Oh, dear me. I am not saying Ableton. I'm not a Logic guy. I'm not an Ableton guy. I know how great Ableton Live is. I'm not downplaying. Why do we have to go into these like kind of camps? Yeah. Look, I'm going to show you right now. I have downloaded Ableton right here. in order to use it as well, in order to keep make this point. The reason I'm using Logic is because it happened to be on my computer when I came back to making music. Where is it? Where is it? It's A, isn't it? There you go. Ableton Live Suite. Okay, so I bought it at the weekend. Right. I am not a Logic guy. I just happen to have it on my computer, and I happen to be using. It was like, well, I'll just use that. Yeah, I've used Ableton throughout my career. I started using Logic. Well, actually, I started using Cubase first, and then I moved to Logic, and then because it was eMagic back then, and then when Ableton came on, I downloaded that. And the way I actually worked in my previous career was I had Ableton rewired into Logic. Okay, and I think that's probably, you don't really need to do that anymore, and it was a little bit complicated. But now I'm going to use both. So I don't need to be I don't need to be told how deep Ableton is. I think Ableton is wonderful and always have. Okay. Exactly. Right. It's all right. It's just there are certain things that do reliably trigger me, and one of them is this whole gear war that goes on. Oh, it must be hardware. Oh, it must be this, and anyone that does anything else is wrong. And so when someone even teases me about it, I'm like, don't you go near that, because it's almost like it's what I stand against. It really is. It's like a core message. It would be kind of like, it would be maybe not this strong, but it would be kind of like somebody accusing you of being an ist when you're totally not. It's a little bit like that for me. It's like reliably will trigger me. So apologies for getting triggered. I am meditating a lot at the moment as a result of these live streams, in order not to get triggered by comments. So, okay. Let's have a look. Ableton for president. Absolutely. Eric, it's called capture within Ableton 10. Yeah, I mean, the thing, it's not the capture that is the thing here. It's the fact that you don't have to do anything in order to capture. Yeah. The thing that I'm like, there's been capture in Logic as well. And again, I'm not defending Logic against Ableton. I'm trying to explain what the game changer is. Just for me yesterday was that you don't have to do anything in order to capture, other than, so you don't have to arm anything. So I could play this here. Yeah. Okay. I could play this here. So nothing is, this isn't armed. Yeah, nothing is armed. Yeah. So I can literally like select a sound, and I can just go over here, and I can go. So I'm not playing anything. I mean, there's no sound. Yep. Nothing playing, no sound. And then, please work, because I know it does. There you go. So now it's captured that with no arming or anything required. No playing, no arming, no anything. Just that bit. It's not the capture bit that is the game changer, because that's always been there. Well, not always, but it's been there for a long time. Yeah. The bit that's the game changer is the fact that you don't need to do anything in order to capture it. Yeah, you just have to play, which in the way that you tend to interact in a DAW is a huge game changer for me personally. It might not be for anyone else. Anyway, right. So coming back to Matt's question, I'm gonna move away from the whole features of Logic and Ableton. It's obviously not my place where I need to remain, because I obviously am getting all kind of caught up in it. So, sorry, I'll go back to. Tell you what, let's go to this one. So Matt says, yes, precisely. I would notice myself going into edit mode. Actually, I'm going to put this one over here. I would notice myself going to edit mode and pull myself back into splurging mode in a conscious manner. I mean, I expect this will become easier for me, but it was a bit tiring. Oh, okay. All right. So you did actually notice the thoughts, which is great, and then you'd pull yourself back into splurging mode in a conscious manner. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I would question is whether it was actually tiring and whether it was, I mean, it may well have been tiring, but that sounds to me, because I don't find that tiring. I actually find it not tiring. Less tiring. I mean, everything's tiring because, we're using resources in order to do anything. Yeah. But is that more or less tiring than being in editor mode the whole time? I think it's less tiring, right? So, yeah, question the thought that it is tiring. Sounds to me like your editor might be delivering you a reason. I mean, I know you will continue to do it, Matt. I'm not suggesting that. But I think your editor is absolutely brilliant at coming up with all sorts of reasons to insert themselves into the process. One of them being, man, ignoring me is so tiring, isn't it? So, okay, Rob. What I'm interested to know, Rob, is you're always asking about sticking to one genre. Can you unpack that for me a bit? Can you explain to me why you're like you ask a lot of questions about, like, do you stick to one genre, um, and stuff like that. What is it about this whole genre thing that is, you ask so many, and I don't want to offend you. I think this isn't meant to be that. It's just to help. Okay. You ask so many questions about genre that if I was coaching you one to one, I reckon there's a big obstacle there, or maybe a little obstacle, but there's some kind of obstacle there because you seem to be thinking about genre a lot in relation to me when you're asking things about me. What is that about? Why are you so very zeroed in on genre? What's going on there? You don't have to answer in the comments. Just have a think about it yourself. Yaniv, I love the fact that splurging basically forces us to break our musical comfort zone. Absolutely. Oh, and another question about from Rob. When did you change genre down the line? Rob, why are you so interested in this genre thing? And I'm in relation to you. So yes, exactly. Matt, people who try to preach what gear other people should be using should be making music instead. There, I said it. Yeah. Yeah. Dry, I agree. It's funny how people obsess about plugins, etc., while other people build a massive career using 99% stock plugins that came with their door. Yes, indeed. It's brilliant. Oh, you're making me all feel better, guys. What a wonderful bunch of people we have here. Dry is saying, as far as I'm concerned, people who preach about gear are welcome to pay for the development of software. Yes. Brilliant. Matt, how does it know the tempo, pace of the notes you play? Though I say sorcery. Indeed. It's strange, isn't it? Ooh. It's very, very clever. Yeah, so Joseph, Mike, you've inspired me to do a 31-day beat challenge this entire month, and that's with only doing day zero of the idea challenge twice. Thank you, sir. Wonderful. That's absolutely brilliant news, Joseph. I'm glad that that's happened. So I'm gonna use this as the starting point. So I'm supposed to be preset splurging now. So this involves probably changing the template a little, and I can only be on for another half an hour because I've got a meeting. So I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to remove the SH7 bass. Hello, GT. How do? Yeah, Eric, I wonder if Rob is trying to find his sound. Yes. I can promise that if you're going to try and find your sound, if that is the case, I can remove the felt piano because that wouldn't be a preset splurge because it's a piano. If Rob is trying to find his sound, then obsessing, and I don't want to say he is obsessing because he may not be, but kind of being so concerned about genre is not how you would do that. But in answer to your question, Rob, actually, I don't want to not answer your question. In answer to your question, I made music in lots of different genres. The very first, actually, I need to go back to computer cam. Yeah, so the very first piece, like thing I released, I showed it to folks the other day. It's actually in there somewhere in that box of records. Can you see that? Yeah, that box of records there. It's called. Let's see if we can find it. It's here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, I can't find it. Anyway, it was a white label called Beat Foundations. In fact, this one too. This was the second one. Yeah, so this was the second one by the same people. So this was me, Andy Cato from Groove Armada. Groove Armada. He wasn't in Groove Armada at this point, but anyway. And Dan, a guy called Dan, and a singer called Malloy. Anyway, our first record that didn't have the singer on it had 3 tracks on it, as does this one. The A side was house, progressive house, in fact, early progressive house classic, and 3 tracks. So on the A side was like a prog house thing, and then on the B side was like what back then was early deep house, yeah, which was a kind of a different thing, and then the B2 was like a kind of chill out, I suppose you'd call it, thing. So in fact so that was kind of the model from the very start. We were doing kind of different genres, and that while I became known mainly for house and techno, tech house kind of stuff, because that's what I kind of played in clubs, really I was making lots of different kinds of music all the time. So in answer to your actual question, Rob, there you go. So dazed and confused. Oh, actually, let me get to Rob's question first, right? So the other coach, Luke. So this was Luke said about producing drum and bass. You listen to it that much, you end changing. About producing drum and bass. No. So what he was saying, he wasn't saying he did it so much that he decided not to do it. Yeah, you misunderstood it. He probably wasn't being 100% clear there, right? So he did 600 splurges, okay, in a few months. He joined my mastermind a couple of years ago, and I said to him, what would be the most motivating goal that you could think of that we could focus on you doing to kick this off? And he just watched I'd been talking about Thriller, the album that Quincy Jones produced for Michael Jackson, and he listened to 600 songs in order to pick the 12 that they were going to record, and then 9 went on the album. And so Luke used that and went, right, I'm going to do 600 splurges. That was his goal. And so in doing that high quantity of splurges, and he actually did most of them in the last set, he kind of left it till the end. I think he did it over a couple of months or something. And in doing that goal, one of the things he noticed was that in doing so many splurges, like really upping the quantity and upping the speed, it gives you an opportunity to try lots of different things that you thought you might want to do, like use different styles and stuff. And one of the things that you do is you scratch these itches and you actually realize, actually, I don't want to do that. I don't really want to do that. So, all those things, you think, oh, I might like to do that. Or I might like to do that. Or I might like to do this. Or I might like to take this from over here. You actually end up doing them. And you actually, because you've done so many, and it kind of scratches that itch. And then you can kind of either leave it behind or take something from that genre and import it into your music. Yeah. Now, what I'm doing at the moment in terms of genre is I'm not thinking about genre really at all. Because one of the things that frustrates me, and this kind of goes into what it shows why I'm so excited about this adapt tempo function as well. Because I'm from a classical background first, and then I played a lot of jazz, and I did pop, and I did lots of different kinds of music. Been playing and performing music from the age of 7, and the one thing that I found very frustrating about most electronic music, not all, most electronic music, is that it is so tempo confined, both on a macro level in terms of the genre. Like, I make house, therefore, I did it, yeah. Therefore, it must be between 120 and, I don't know, we can argue about when it ends, but 126, 128, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So you make music at that tempo, and it's obvious why. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, for me as an artist, I was finding it stifling. Yeah. Constraints are great. For a long time, I actually really enjoyed the constraints because it meant you can reinterpret things. Yeah. But for me, I found it stifling. But the other thing on a more micro level is that when you're playing, in classical music, for instance, if I play a Mozart sonata, for instance, or any sonata, and any classical music, so much of the expressiveness of that music comes from the music speeding up and slowing down. So much of it. It's like, without that, it's almost like you've removed I don't know, I can't do it in percentage terms, but let's just say 25% of its expressiveness. Because when you slow down and you put it, same in jazz, in kind of live performance in general, and that's one of the things I found very frustrating. So tempo is something that I've been wanting to. When I left making music and looked at what I'd done, I realized that tempo was something that was kind of getting to me. Yeah. So what I'm doing now is I am letting the music tell me what tempo it wants to be. So I come up with an idea, just like I did then. If you were at the start of the stream, you saw me playing it, and it just ends up that it's somewhere between. It's in the 130s range. I don't know whether you can see that. It's probably a bit small. Hang on, sorry. Studio. So here we go. When I played this, you can see it's somewhere in the 130s range. But I didn't do that because I'm making techno. Yeah, I did that because that's what came out. Now, what will the genre be of this? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. But because what I am defining as my style, it's the same process as a genre is created in a sense, but I'm choosing the elements myself. So, Rob's saying, I decided to change to drum and bass. Okay. Now I am in drum and bass. So that means I take this type of element from over here, and I do that though. So how do you do a drum and bass beat? Yeah. What are the things I have to do? And then you go tutorials, and then you're like, oh, okay, so this is so then now I'm going to get good at drum and bass. Yeah. Yeah. So you take that element from there. Oh yeah. So and then there's the bass, right? So now I need to know about how a drum and bass thing works. Yeah. So these elements were at some point created by someone for the first time, or kind of over time they gradually developed. Yeah. And other people went, oh, that's a cool idea, so I'm going to start to do that. And so it became this category, yeah, based upon elements. But when you think about it, in that situation, there's nothing wrong with doing this. I've done it for years and I still do. Yeah. But in that situation, you are defining your sound based on other people's decisions, which is cool because you might want to fit in that space. I totally get it. Yeah. But for me, I want to choose the elements that I'm using based upon my creative process, what's coming out of my creative process, not based upon everybody else's creative process. So it is kind of in a sense based upon other people's creative process because I'm taking this from over here. So I use Vangelis like strings, yeah, or I'm using kind of beats from over here, but I'm not. It's almost like what sounds like me is going to be the elements that I decide upon rather than a category based element. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's like I'm not even thinking about genre. So all of these genre questions as far as I'm concerned, are kind of irrelevant, if that makes sense. So Dazed and Confused asks the question. Where are we? I've lost my cursor. Right. It's been an interesting experience. I have 15 splurges so far. I do not know why now, but now I'm looking forward to sitting down. Great. Oh, I see. So sitting down to write. Fantastic. Like going on an adventure to meet new sounds and melodies. Fantastic. You do not know why. I can tell you why. Because you're starting to have fun again. Because you've removed the thing that stops you from having fun, which is the need for everything to be brilliant. And this is where we start. Okay. Continue down this path. And there are untold untold treasures to be found. Yeah, making 8 and 16 bar loops made it tiring, demotivated, but it's dull, isn't it? And it's like a process with all, So yes, Joseph says, if you can, Rob, try to just create without stipulations. Let the session dictate genre and mood after open experimentation. Yes, but like never a true word said. I 100% concur with what Joseph just said, and because like when you make this is the other benefit of making heaps and heaps of ideas is that you like let's say you do 100 splurge challenge. I'm not suggesting you do that right now, but let's just say you do. Out of those 100 splurges, no matter how many different types of thing that you've created, how many genres you've kind of gone to, you're going to have enough good ideas to make at least one EP in a genre, if not like an album. I mean, it probably be more like an album. You're probably going to have enough ideas to make at least an album in that genre, in one genre, if you want to do generic music, if you want to be in a genre. And you will have also experimented in all of these different other areas, which will actually inform your music in that genre. So even if you want to write in a genre at the idea generation phase, just let it go. Don't worry about it. You will end up writing some drum and bass. You will end up writing some this if you want to. You will end up writing some that. And then you can choose. So it's about, instead of intentionally creating it up front, yeah, I'm going to write this. Yeah, you're curating it later on. So, maybe think about it like that. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it's certainly how I'm thinking about it. So, great. Thanks. Yes, these aren't actually slippers. These are Ugg boots, an Australian classic. Stop the cold feet. Okay. Brilliant. Seems that Rob is on a good path. Splurging has automatically kept me away from my genre. Yeah, maybe don't think about it as keeping you away from your genres. Think about it as developing your style, which you can choose at some point to be in a genre if you want, but you don't have to. Now, here's the cool thing about this. and I'm going to have to end on this because I've got to stop in 13 minutes. So I'm not going to do a full splurge today. Hello, Manuel. So here's the cool thing about this. So getting this DFAM in. So I've got the DFAM synced. Right, let's go over to Vince Cam. Hello, Vince Cam. So I've got the DFAM synced with this. Yeah. So now what will happen, and I'm just going to play, going over back to computer cam, I'm just going to play this bit from when it actually goes kind of rhythmic. Yeah. And I've got no idea what this is about to play, this DFAM, by the way. I will come back to your question in a second, Doug. No worries, Rob. No worries at all. Right, Vince Cam. Okay, so I've got no idea what this thing's going to play now because it's on the last thing that I'd had. So just bear with me on that. Turn off this clip. See, did you hit like I don't know about you, but having that move with the keyboard slower and faster is doing it for me. I know it wouldn't be it wouldn't be good for a DJ, but I'm not intending to write DJ music here. Yeah, it's just there's something about it that's really, it's kind of whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm finding it extremely exciting. I mean, again, this is just the hang on. This is just the beginnings of me experimenting with this, but it's kind of something I've never really done before, and hang on a minute, something happened there. Something weird happened there. Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you. Logic captured my tempo changes as you played while it was idle. That's what I mean. Finally, the penny drops. Yes. Now, obviously, there is a little bit of fiddling around that I'm going to have to do in order to make the actual upbeat and the downbeat right. Yeah, or work. Yeah. But that the fact that you can now do this is totally blowing my mind, and when I figured out how to make it actually work, because it's, at the moment I'm not sure I've got the downbeats and the upbeats right, and obviously when I do this I change the downbeats and the upbeats. I'm going to have to change some of these notes, but the fact that this is actually working in some way, because the technology is working, the only thing that isn't working is my ability to use the technology, is making me extremely excited, because I can now do stuff that I've always wanted to do, and that's always, well, not maybe not always, but for a long time has ever since I've come back to making music, has frustrated me in using a DAW, which is being locked into a particular grid. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to finish off by answering some questions. Yeah, and also, the multi-clock is absolutely, it's like, In time. I'm in time. I will not move. I'm going to stick to the door. You know, I'm going to stick to the sync signal. Yeah, it's because it's coming in via. I'll just show you how it works. So basically, you download this app. This plugin from ERM, and then that sends a signal, a robot signal, which sounds like this. Yep. To and what was it on? It was on A6, wasn't it? I don't know. I really need to rename these outputs. That one. Yeah, to the ERM, and then the ERM it sends an audio signal to the DFAM, because the DFAM's got no MIDI or anything. And so it's absolutely so tight. So let's come back to the questions. Geek question from Douglas. What cams am I using? All right, let's go through the cams. Studio Cam over here, which we haven't found a better name for Studio Cam. At the moment, we're going to call him Studio Cam. That is so far, of all the webcams I've ever used, the best webcam that I've ever had, by quite a long way, and it's a Logitech C922. Now, unfortunately, at this point, there is a worldwide shortage of webcams. You know, forget toilet paper. We need webcams. So you just can't get them for love and money at the moment. So good luck with that. But yeah, so it's a Logitech C922, and yeah, it's great because it works in low light conditions. It's super clear. I'll tell you about how to get the best out of a webcam in a minute as well, because it's actually much more to do with something that you don't expect it to be. Right? So Logitech C922. Now, Vince Cam over here. This little guy. Hello, Vince Cam. I got him before Studio Cam over there, and this is the Logitech C920. Okay, and it's basically the same webcam. It's an earlier version of the C922. It's very good. The only thing is it's not quite as clear and quite got the clarity, and also it doesn't work so well in lighting, low lighting conditions. Okay, so, and then computer cam is just the FaceTime cam on my iMac, and that's what I've got at the moment. Now, the way to get the best out of any camera, but particularly these kinds of cameras, which are not very high quality, cameras, webcams, is actually about lighting. All right. So what you need to do in order to make them work well is you need to have some kind of a softbox. And what I mean by softbox, hang on, let's use Vince Cam. In a minute. Let's use Vince Cam to show you. Turn around. Right, so you can see that there. So what I've got is a softbox light pointing straight at my face, yeah, and then the Logitech Cam is just right in front of it there, like that, yeah, and that's quite close to my face. Now, oh, hang on, come over here, Cam. So essentially, and the other thing to bear in mind is my background is quite far away. What, 3-4 meters away? So essentially what's happening is that the stuff in the foreground is being lit very brightly. So I've got this bright light in my face. Yeah. Stuff back there, even though there are lights back there, is nowhere near as bright. And that's creating the sense of depth and the kind of clarity of the picture at the front. Yeah. Same is true with computer cam over here. So where can I show you that? Hang on, let's go to this one. So hang on. Let me just. So you see that there? So I've got softbox right in my face when I'm standing at the screen, which makes an enormous difference for this camera. Let me do it without. See that? Yeah, and now the other thing I've got actually is, I don't know whether you can see this one. I've got this pointing in my face. I'm even going to turn that off as well. Right. Now, obviously, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have those lights pointing at the back wall. But by fiddling around with the lighting and actually lighting the back, yeah, a little, me in the front, you can see the difference that makes to the picture. So really, where like you get really good quality picture is through the lighting, more really than the webcams. Because this FaceTime cam is nowhere near as good as the Logitech. One bad thing about the Logitech stuff is the software. It's a nightmare to use, particularly if you're on a Mac. All right, let's call Studio Cam Dave. And I'm going to... Bob's your Uncle Cam. All right, so Joseph's asking, I'm scared to update Logic until I do something with my plethora of older projects using plugins with what will be defunct stock plugins. Am I being silly, and should I upgrade now or wait? So I certainly don't want to be responsible for you having a shocker. So, I would have thought that the stock plugins in Logic, check this, I would have thought that they would have provided a way of opening them up. So, for instance, I've heard it was Christian Henson talking about it, who's a Logic user. I think the new sampler is basically the EXS24, but just with additional features, and it's been reskinned. So I would have thought, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I would have thought the EXS24 that you can open up. And also the other stock plugins, hang on, sorry, I'm not doing the right cam. So the, so the EXS, I would have, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. It's just got more features, and it's been reskinned. In terms of other, I mean, we've got all of the same ones here. Look, you know, the ESM. I used to use that for basslines all the time. Yeah. So we've got all of the old stock plugins. So don't quote me. It's got the Ultra Beat. Yeah, the old ones. I mean, these are the ones that they had when it first went to VSTs and stuff. It's got the F1, FM1. Oh man, this is bringing back memories. AS1. They're all there. This was the first crop. The ES2, when that came out, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, this was the second lot that came out. So I would have thought that they wouldn't have. I mean, you never know. I would have thought they wouldn't have changed it if you're talking about the stock plugins in Logic. They wouldn't have made it so that you couldn't open them. One thing that you could do, if you've got two computers, is that you could have an old version of Logic on one computer and update to the new one on another computer. And I mean, what I would do almost as a practice anyway is actually bouncing a lot of the stuff you're using in plugins to audio if you think you're going to work on them in the future anyway, because then you wouldn't have this problem. So there you go. Rob's saying he's updating. He's had no problems. Okay. Manuel. And the audio connect to the computer audio interface or cell phone. Yeah, no. So basically, you won't be able to see it. Oh, maybe you can. Let me see if I can go over to this. Can you see that? No, you wouldn't be able to. Yeah, basically, I've got it set. Actually, how I've done it, I'm going to have to show you. So if you're using a Mac, unfortunately, the way that the Mac's audio works, having a little impromptu, what's it called? Little live streaming tutorial. Okay. I'm using loop back, which I actually only figured out yesterday. So you can do it without loop back, but basically this is how I've now got stereo sound from the DAW, because I wasn't able to get stereo sound before. It had to be mono. But basically, I've used loopback to create a virtual device here. And what loopback is a way of routing audio within a Mac. Yeah, because it doesn't work like Windows. Windows is actually easier. So here you'll see my Universal Audio X6, my Apollo X6. Yeah. So this is my mic, obviously, and I've got that plugged into both of the right and left to make the mic level come out as it through both channels, so it doesn't just come through one side. And then everything that is coming into, so these are all inputs coming into, so this would be the DFAM, the mother, the the SH7, and the Prophet, are then going into both the left and right. Yeah, and then this is the DAW output, again going into left and right. Okay, now that is what I select in my software, which is Ecamm Live at the moment, although I am playing with OBS at the moment as well, and I'm getting that working too. So that is basically selected as the interface going into Ecamm Live. Yeah, so that's what you're now hearing. So now I'm able to, because when I didn't use loopback, it was kind of, it just kind of selected what was coming out, and that meant that either my voice was only coming out of the left channel, or I had to have everything in mono. So yeah. Anyway, I haven't because I've been answering questions and arguing about Ableton and Logic. Sorry about that, guys. As I said, I'm going to reliably. If you ever want to trigger me, start getting accusing, well, not accusing me, but teasing me about caring a lot about what tools people are using, because I just don't, because I think it's wonderful. You know, if somebody can use a dustbin lid to make wonderful music, then hooray, they are a brilliant musician as far as I'm concerned. So sorry about the little triggering moment I had early on. I'm now going to go and do a meeting that I have to do, largely about t-shirts. So I'm going to go and do that now. I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to meditate even further, so that eventually I will be, Buddha-like and unable to be ruffled by any teasing whatsoever. So please feel free to tease away as much as you want in the future. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay sanitized, and onwards and